Okay, this is take two because my phone doesn't believe me when I tell it doesn't, or it does have memory. It doesn't believe me. So we're going to try to get through this quickly in under 10 minutes, why we aren't vegan anymore. Some of you know I'm not vegan anymore. Some of you, I don't know if you still thought I was, or I'm not sure. But we haven't made a video in a while. Last summer was really rough for me, which is why we stopped with the veganism. And we weren't just vegan, we were whole food plant-based, which is vegan, but then also no added oil, not even like olive oil, avocado oil, none of that. Also no sugar, no added, additives, processed foods, nothing. If it wasn't whole food plants from a garden, we didn't eat it. And so now we're on the Weston A. Price Foundation. It's not really a diet, but a lifestyle. And they have 11 principles to follow. You can find these on the Weston A. Price Foundation's website. It's westonaprice.org, I think. Not positive. But if you Google it, it will come up. And for anybody who knows about them, they actually advocate a lot of animal products, high-fat dairy, meat with the fat still on it, bone-in meat, organ meats, seafood, all of these things that is completely polar opposite to whole food plant-based, or it seems like it. But in reality, both of these lifestyles are seeking to do the same thing, and that is to eliminate chronic illness. They look at the same data. For example, the data that says dairy, countries which consume large amounts of dairy actually have higher rates of things called, of like bone fractures, osteoporosis, things of that nature. Weston A. Price says you need to eat it raw with the enzymes so that your body can properly absorb the nutrients that are within it, because the pasteurized dairy in the store, that is very bad for you. Whole food plant-based says don't eat dairy, period. And that's not quite the whole picture. Outside of that, when you pasteurize dairy, the proteins in it, normally they're these long, beautiful strands, but when you pasteurize it, those strands break. The protein becomes denatured. It becomes harder to digest, and that's why a lot of the population has issues with dairy, like myself. So they and there's many scenarios where they do that, but that's just one example, where they look at the same data and they have the same end goal, a life without chronic illness, but they have totally different method of getting to that. I've never felt as good as I do now, until we switched to this diet. For those of you who don't know, I had a very bad summer that I had mental health issues that were spiraling. I was sick all the time. I was exhausted all the time. I could barely get out of bed, to the point where I was so depressed that I was wanting to act on that in ways that I would rather not discuss. But my husband had to call emergency help for me. It was that bad. One day after adding some animal foods back into my diet, I felt like a different person. And it wasn't like I felt better, but I felt so much better than I did. Not better completely, but better than I did. That led us to the Weston A. Price Foundation. I had a friend who actually followed it also, and so I started looking into it. The other thing that the whole food plant-based says is you can get all of your nutrients that you need, all of them, from plant food sources, and that's not true, and I didn't know this. For example, gelatin, collagen, and biotin. They're known for supporting skin and hair and nails, and they make your hair all long and silky, and my hair's short right now, of course, but that's what they're kind of known for. But they also aid in digestion, joint health, bone strength, just everything you can think of. You need gelatin for it. You need biotin. You need collagen. These foods are found, especially gelatin and collagen, are found in the bones, in these gelatin-rich bone broth that we've replaced with these cans of Swanson chicken broth or powdered chicken bouillon. We've replaced these super nutrient-dense foods with these artificial, fake, they don't have the nutrient content. It's just a flavoring agent where it should have been a nutrient-providing food. Collagen, gelatin, biotin are mostly found in the bones, the skin, chicken, fish, egg whites, organ meats, egg yolks, meat, all of these animal products. They come in these places, they are heavily concentrated. However, you can get them in plant food sources. Some of them, I don't know of gelatin. I don't know of anywhere to get gelatin from a plant source. But you can get collagen and biotin from plant sources, but only very trace amounts, and it's not in a form that's easily digestible by our body. Outside of that, there's one called arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid is an essential fatty acid, and that is really necessary for, it's been described as a pin that holds your cells together. And in being an essential fatty acid, it's one that you can't properly consume your omega-3s. You can't properly, you can't properly live without it. It's essential. It's, without it, humans die. You cannot get arachidonic acid in any sort of a significant form from plant sources except fermented foods. Something like natto is a fermented soybean paste from Japan. And that does have some arachidonic acid. Sauerkraut, if it's proper fermented sauerkraut eaten cold, so it's not, well, actually, I'm not sure if it has to be eaten cold for the arachidonic acid. I totally got ahead of myself. That's not true. Arachidonic acid does not come in those things. That's vitamin K2, which is my next point. Arachidonic acid only comes from plant source, I cannot talk, only comes from animal sources. Vitamin K2 is the one that you can get from fermented foods like natto and sauerkraut. And vitamin K2, so when you say you need vitamin K, what do they tell you to eat? Eat leafy green vegetables, spinach, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, those things. Those are full of vitamin K. They're full of vitamin K1. What they don't tell you is vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is only available in things like high-fat dairy, egg yolks, liver, especially poultry liver, and fermented foods, which is the sauerkraut and natto I was talking about. I just got a little ahead of myself. Now, that is available in a plant form in those fermented foods. However, most of us are not eating copious amounts of natto and sauerkraut every day. And I understand, like, things like liver, I don't like it either. I don't want to eat it all the time. It's not my favorite food. But I found that pureeing it and mixing it with some ground chicken and spicing it like chicken sausage and making it into breakfast patties, it just tastes like sausage to me. I don't taste it at all. So there are ways to get that in. Now, K2, why do you need this K2? What is it? What is it for? K2 was described by Dr. Price as activator X. That's what he called it. He didn't know what it was yet. But this activator is the fat-soluble vitamin that helps you absorb everything else. So like the whole food plant-based says, well, yeah, you'll probably be deficient in B12, but so are the meat eaters. This is because, number one, they don't eat the organ meats, and number two, they do not get enough K2 because they don't eat the organ meats. So the K2 helps you absorb all these other vitamins that it was just like, when I was learning this, it was like blinders lifted, and it all made sense. And when you start consuming enough of this K2, your other forms of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, K, they're easier to absorb, which makes it easier for the other vitamins, the water-soluble vitamins, also to be eaten and absorbed and used correctly. And it's just like this amazing, like, I haven't felt this good. I don't ever remember feeling this good. I don't need a nap every afternoon. I'm not exhausted. I'm not crawling, begging for coffee. I'm not in pain in my hips anymore. I was in so much pain every night in my hips after Charlotte was born. As soon as I started introducing the bone broth with the collagen, gelatin, biotin, I went from 2 weeks needing to see my chiropractor to 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I wasn't in pain. And it used to be so bad I couldn't sleep without a pain reliever. So this is just a short summary of some of the differences between whole food plant-based, why we don't follow whole food plant-based anymore, why I will never go back to a vegan or whole food plant-based diet, and what we are doing instead, because like today I was rendering lard. Who knew, right? Pastured lard from pastured pigs. Very different than conventional pigs, but pastured pigs is one of the best sources of vitamin D you can find. It's like a supplement. And this is just what people ate for centuries, and now we don't eat it, and everybody's deficient in vitamin D all winter, and they say, oh, take a supplement. We shouldn't have to live off supplements. You should be able to get this from your food. So I can answer more questions as they come, but this is a brief outline of why we are not vegan anymore. And yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think. This is why I do weird things like cook fish heads and render lard now.